Hello, welcome to Lights at F1 podcast, and this is episode 18, the Singapore Grand Prix. It is titled, You Are the Lion of Singapore, and here where that moment happened out on the track.
Enjoy the fireworks. Here is awesome, as usual. You are the Lion of Singapore. How many wins did you have? Many?
Five.
Five, like car number 5.
Exactly. Grazie.
Well done.
Of course, first off, we start with the 5 lights on, 5 lights out segment. And the topics today will be Daniel being DQ'd from quali. He was not happy. We asked the question, is Ferrari back after their win with Sebastian Vettel and the 1-2? Conservation mode at the start of the race. What was that all about and what that meant for the race? The incidences, ones of note, Kubica and Russell, Grosjean and Russell, Raikkonen and Kvyat, and Daniel and Giovinazzi. We will talk about all of them in detail and what we thought. And then that very interesting radio call from James to Bottas, telling him to do the 1:48 so Hamilton could go through. What do you think of that one? We will share our thoughts there. Checkered flag segment, where we get to go over a few other topics we didn't get to do in detail. An interesting one brought up was whether or not the Sky commentary team is biased. Obviously, they're a British team. They're going to have their British allegiances. Do you get that feeling when you're listening to the English commentary, when it's especially the Sky commentary at home? Let us know. The S3 awards, we've got the Superstar, the Surpriser and the Stinker, 2, 1 and -1 point there. We'll hand out those. The Rookie Watch as well. Different opinions this week from both of us. Podium predictions for both Singapore and Russia. We get them out ahead of time. Sim racing and esports news. The big one is the Bathurst 1000 on this weekend and the Fantasy League, which if you've been following me, I do apologise for this very weak performance this week. But if you went with Aussie, you did well. We'll explain what happened there. And that will wrap up the podcast. So here it is. Enjoy. And don't forget, catch us on Facebook if you haven't already. And don't forget, leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, wherever you're listening from. You're probably not watching a podcast. But yeah, don't forget, if you find us wherever you want, Podbean, Podcast, Stitch, all of them, just search Lights at F1. All right, thank you. Enjoy tonight's episode. Hello and welcome, everybody, to today's Lights Out F1 podcast, episode 18. It is You Are the Lion of Singapore. My name is Josh, and I've got Aussie with me to take us through the entire Singapore, talk about everything that happened. How you going, dude?
G'day, Josh. I'm good, mate. And he is the Lion of Singapore, eh? 5 times he's won there now.
Yeah, well, like they said, five times. It's about time he won too.
392 days later.
Yeah, that's such a long time. It's like, when he got out and interviewed, he definitely felt like, I think he looked like a bit of relief was on his face. Anyway, it looked like it meant something to him. Anyway,
definitely. Just in case anyone's wondering who we're talking about, it is Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah, he did win the race. He did, and we will talk about him in the 5 lights out, 5 lights on segment. But first up on that list is Daniel Ricciardo's disqualification from qualification. That's a mouthful. Yeah, he wasn't happy because it was such a small infraction when you go measure it. But it was an infraction nonetheless, and he got DQ'd.
What was it? His MGUK
power output or something was...
It spiked over a curb or something, and it exceeded the allowable limit by...
0.001 or 0.0001?
A millionth of a second or whatever. It's just a bee's dick.
Yeah, what's crazy? What's crazy is that they could measure it to that fine set of tolerances, man. I didn't realize it was so tight.
Well, that's what I've always said. I mean, this is Formula One, so they can measure anything, whatever they want to. The bigger concern for me was that lap that spiked in wasn't even the lap which got him through Q1 to Q2. That was his first lap, but then on his second lap, which was his faster lap, It was fine. There was no spikes. There was nothing. But they still disqualified him out of qualifying altogether. He was at the back of the grid, which I thought was just... I don't know what you thought. I thought it was just too harsh.
It's harsh, but when it says, and we've been complaining about it all year, when it's black and white in the rulebook, once a competitor exceeds it, they're immediately DQ'd. That's what they had to do. That's what it says. I know it feels super harsh, but then you start, if you set a precedence here that you can be a millionth over, then they're going to start. Then teams are going to start using that millionth, and then it'll just continue on. Like you can't give a team a leeway here. It just has to be set in stone. And that's what it is. I think it was the right call, if not harsh.
Well, I'm glad you answered exactly the way you did there, because then I want to come back at you with why didn't Hamilton get DQ'd with his fuel being so cold?
Oh, cold. Yep.
That is also a technicality, right? It is a technical rule.
Oh, it was 11 degrees instead of the 10. They got a fine of £5,000. It was in a free practice session as well, so it doesn't really affect the race in the same.
How did Daniel's quali lap affect it when it exceeded the limit on a non-lap that got him through?
I mean, that's a fair argument to make.
That's what I'm trying to say. Where's the consistency? Just because one's Mercedes and one's Renault, it's just easier to disqualify the Renault, I think.
Oh, it would be. But what do you do in a free practice? Do you DQ them from... Because it was FP2, do you say you can't run FP3?
Don't you remember what they did with Gasly early on in the year? In FP2, when he had a fuel flow meter issue, it exceeded the fuel flow limit.
You're right.
They excluded him from qualifying right from FP2. So why does Mercedes only get a $5,000 fine?
Well, I don't know. I can't answer that one.
I was very surprised that this did not get mentioned very much over the weekend, or I didn't hear too much discussions about it.
Yeah, well, it's not something I really took into... I didn't really put the two and two together that, Gasly had a similar issue earlier in the year and got taken out of quali, and yeah, I don't know. For the way they handled Ricciardo's in isolation, I think was the right thing to do. But you make a point when you say Mercedes got away with it, and a Mercedes getting away with it because they're Mercedes.
Why didn't we just give Renault a €5,000 fine?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because if, on the other hand, if that lap that got him through from Q1 to Q2, so if it was his fastest lap in Q1 and there was that minuscule spike, I could totally understand it, because you could say, well, that's why you got through.
Yeah.
Even if it's not necessarily the fact.
Obviously.
But you could see that argument. But in this particular case, it was the lap prior to that where the spike happened. So, in my mind, that lap alone, even though it was within qualifying, it's no different to Lewis exceeding the technicalities in FP1.
Yeah. No, you're right. And so, I haven't had enough time to process this because it's just been jumped on me then, but it's not fair. It's definitely not fair when you put it in context like that.
Yes, I am a Dan fan, and there may be some bias there. I'm not going to say there isn't any, but I'm just trying to say, well, fair's fair, because if you noticed, Martin Brundle grabbed Michael Massey on the pit walk just before the race as Massey was walking past, and he asked him about it.
Right.
And Michael Massey, the F1 director, his response basically was, well, rules are rules. So I'm just saying, if that's what we're saying, rules are rules, you break it, you suffer the consequences. I think Lewis should have started from the back of the grid as well.
There must have been I haven't read the rule book, so I don't know, but there must have been an allowance with the fuel rule to hand a certain penalty.
No, the allowance is every team, to allow for anomalies, they're allowed to be 10 degrees underneath the ambient temperature maximum.
No, I understand that, but I mean, handing out a penalty, there must be it constitutes this action being taken. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I couldn't answer you there, but then, like I just threw at you earlier with Gasly, that was a fuel flow issue. It wasn't a temperature issue, but it's just...
Again, it could have been this is the only action that can be taken in this situation where the fuel one might have had the team can be fined or the team can be, they might have had a choice. And if that's what's in the book, then you're sort of like, well, they're still sticking to the rules. But I haven't read the rule book, so I don't know. But I'm just putting out a reason. Like if you go in for your first offence, speeding, you might get off. But if you've been constantly speeding, and obviously it's going to get harder and harder to get off. So the judge's decision it's his prerogative really. But so I don't know if there's an allowance there to say, well, it was at a practice session. They were only 1 degree over. This is the first time they've been caught. Let's just hand them a fine. But when you're in isolation, it sounds okay. But then once you start saying, well, what about this situation? And it happens all the time. Mm-hmm. What happens in this situation? Why didn't it happen here? Why didn't it happen here? I don't know. It is a hard one to justify when you explain it like that.
Well, it did kind of just piss me off because it was on top of Daniel having a ripper qualifying. Like he qualified 8th. Both the Renaults actually 8th and 9th.
Yeah, they did really well.
Legitimately been on the grid.
Yeah.
This is a track where we spoke about at the last race where we did not expect their Monza form to carry through. And having said that, same goes for Ferrari. Just for me, both of these teams really surprised me this week.
Oh, clearly. I mean, both Ferrari and Renault have clearly they're on the right path. So it's good to see, but yeah, I don't know. It's a hard one to pick there with that penalty.
So that just really screwed Dan's race up. You could see he was dejected after that.
Well, he wasn't happy. He was pissed off.
I just want fair play, man. I just want fair play for everyone. We've been bringing it up about Mercedes doing these fake pit stops and constantly getting away with it. Last year, they brought in their idea of the 3-race tyre tests, for the tyres to suit them. And back in the day, it used to always be the FIA works for Ferrari. And I'm just starting to really get this feeling that pendulum has really swung around. And they are really in Mercedes' pocket at the moment.
Yeah, I really hope that's not the case. I mean, I don't want that to be the case. It feels like it at times, though. It really
That's
does.
all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It feels like it, yes.
It does. Anyway, all right. Well, that'll conclude the first light. And if you've got any comments of your own, please feel free to let us know in either the comment section, wherever you're watching, or on the Facebook. It's probably the best way to do it, but it doesn't matter. If you could, this podcast is on all the podcasts, so if you've typed out Lights at F1, you'll find us anywhere.
Bloody oath.
But if you're on the iTunes, we'd love the 5-star rating. If that's not too much to ask, not too much.
Jump on our Facebook, guys. I've noticed a few more views popping up here and there through the week, so it's obviously people are checking it out. We are, expanding on it as we go, so it's there. Lights Out F1 Facebook page. Jump in, say hello.
Yeah, we'd love to hear you. Anyway, light number 2 for the section is Ferrari back. So this should encapsulate Ferrari's entire weekend from the 1-2 finish, Leclerc qualifying first, including their pit strategy, which undercut for Vettel. So we'll go through all of that. Where do you want to start?
Who the hell saw this coming?
I didn't think...
After this year that we've had, we all knew that Ferrari was expected, right, to win Spa. They were expected to win Monza with their power and, very slippery car that they've had.
But a 1-2 in Singapore.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened in Hungary? They nearly got lapped in Hungary.
I know.
So, this just came from nowhere. The one thing I can say, though, is it was my fault.
Was it?
I told you last time, remember, when we were doing the tips, I said, you watch now that I'm not tipping Vettel on top, you watch him come out and win, I said.
Yeah, you said Hamilton would win.
Yeah, this week I did.
Yeah, and that was...
Didn't even make a podium.
Well, he went backwards.
But that was just unbelievable what Ferrari did this weekend. I mean, I heard so many things out and about this just over the last couple of days, how boring that race was, and I just do not understand some fans, Josh. I thought it was a ripper of a race.
I think we should talk about the race being boring or not once we get checkered flag, but that was a strategic race. Plus, there was a shitload of overtakes, so you got exactly what you wanted, people. So that race had strategy. That race had a bucket load of overtaking, and you found it boring. You can't please these people. Anyway, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Because I feel the same way. I feel like it was a really good race. But Vettel... Let's start
at qualifying.
Yeah, Vettel in the qualifying. He stuffed up again, and it didn't look good.
That's when I thought, here we go, because he went out, he put out a really good first lap.
Yep.
And he was on provisional pole, and then he went out for the last runs first, and he was a little bit down. I think he was a 10th down in the first sector from memory.
Yeah, it was about just over a 10th, so he was close.
And then he started getting a little bit squiggly and, trying to make up for it, and then he made another error, and then I think it was around the back turn 16 or turn 17, he had a really big moment, and he just pulled it straight into the pits. He didn't even finish his lap. Obviously, on his steering wheel, he could tell how far down he was.
Yeah.
So he wasn't going to improve. That was the point right there, Josh, that I said, oh, shit, here he is, another Vettel mistake, and he's cost himself. And this is the race that everyone was expecting him to win. Oh, sorry, sorry, I got that wrong. No one was expecting him to win, but this is his strongest track that he should be ahead of Leclerc, and lo and behold, Leclerc put it on pole.
Well, Leclerc made the point that he'd lost control 3 times on his fast lap, so he must have been absolutely just screaming.
But how good is that, to see these drivers just on the ragged edge? We've had these conversations on the back of Monza. I'm sure you've heard it all. We haven't actually discussed it, but about these, qualifying races, and we need to change qualifying, blah, 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 and it's starting to pick up a bit of momentum amongst the fans. Man, on a street circuit, the walls are right there, and you just watch that qualifying. The tension was there.
Oh, yeah. Saturday. That was a really good qualifying. That's why when all the messages started coming through about changing qualifying format, I was just like, are you guys idiots? Look at this. This is... You can't change this. Like, it was really good to see, and it was really good to, like, Leclerc, you could genuinely tell by the end of that lap that he'd enjoyed it, because he's just like, look at that lap time. Like, I was losing control. Like, that was outrageous.
He said, I nearly put in the wall 3 times.
Yeah.
So he was...
That's what you want. That's what you want.
It was just the Leclerc train steamrolling ahead, wasn't it? Like, on the back of the last 2 races, here he was, bang on pole again.
Yeah.
And surely at that point, Sebastian must have had his head in his hands, shoulders down. He had to have.
Well, Singapore's like Monaco. Track position is so vital, and he had it. So I really thought Leclerc was on for his first 3 wins from his, those 3 races in a row. So that wasn't to be.
It wasn't to be.
Was it?
No. We had the race start, and then
the undercut.
Vettel came in on lap 19, and that sparked a lot of Leclerc fanboys saying, why didn't Ferrari give Leclerc back the position?
I wanted to work it out, but I don't think at the time Ferrari really had any other choice. But I wanted to get out the timing sheet and watch the replay back and figure out where everyone was on the track and the time required, and I somehow don't think Vettel... I don't think they had any other choice at that time, otherwise it would have ended up worse.
There was no other way Ferrari could have played this, because Leclerc was obviously controlling the pace for that first entire stint, right?
Yeah.
He was driving to a delta. Yes, fair enough. That was the team's strategy. That's how they wanted to play it. Now, he's leading the race. At this point, he doesn't know if Hamilton is holding back, if he's got the pace or not. So if he comes in right, and then Hamilton puts in a couple of stonker laps, that's a big gamble they're taking. So he was never going to pit first anyway. So they had to bring, as soon as Ferrari saw Red Bull preparing for that pit stop, and they called Max in, who was just up Vettel's clacker, that's when Ferrari said, okay, Vettel, get in now. That was the only play they had, because if they didn't call Vettel in, Max pits, at the very least, he undercuts Vettel.
Yeah, yeah.
So Ferrari, at best now, are looking at a 1-3
Yep.
and quite possibly a 2-3.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's what it was. Max was the important role in all that.
That's what was the instigator of it all, but these people on social media just do not understand it.
The undercut was so powerful too at Singapore. I've got a bad memory, so I'm not really good at remembering from year to year where the undercut works, but it worked really well at Singapore.
Oh, it's always powerful because the pit lane speed limit is a lot slower than everywhere else. I think it's like 60 kilometres, or it might even be 40 kilometres an hour. I'm not 100% sure there, but it's also very long. As you come in, you've got to follow that whole second last turn and almost the last turn around into the pit lane, but on the inside at the slower speed. So it's a very long pit lane. I think it's almost 10 seconds longer than every other track.
Right,
so that's why these teams had to try and stretch out that first stint to just do a one stop rather than a two. Now, the point there being is with the undercut, even Ferrari was surprised. I mean, we all know by now they didn't even expect it to be that strong.
Yeah.
But yes, the undercut's powerful, but I think Vettel made it look more powerful than it was because on his outlap, he did a 207 flat, including the pit stop.
Yep.
And Leclerc, at this point, he's obviously pissed or whatever, and he's trying his hardest. And his outlap was a tenth or maybe 0.2 slower than Vettel's. But it was the next lap after that I noticed, because immediately on the second lap, Vettel went purple. It took about 3 laps for Leclerc to go purple. So what I'm saying is, Vettel came out on it out of the pits. He really... He was just driving for that undercut. Like, he knew what he was racing for.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a legitimate tactic, because I think it's easy to say that, Ferrari ruined their strategy again today, but...
No, I don't think they did.
I don't
think they played it perfectly.
No, well, I don't think they did. Initially I did, but then when I started thinking about it, and I'm like, hang on, Verstappen was in play at the same time. That's why he had to pit. They were going for the 1-2. And like you said, they could have lost that 1-2 potential because of the undercut, losing the spot to Verstappen. They saved the 1-2 at the end of the day, because while the drivers are thinking for themselves, the teams are thinking for the team, and they want the best result for the team.
I mean, take the drivers out of it. The team are just trying to secure this 1-2, which the last time was in 2009. So that's how long ago the last time Ferrari had a 1-2 finish.
Yeah. Well,
so that was their number one goal.
Well, winning Monza and a 1-2 in Singapore, that's good PR for them as well.
And you know what? It's a freaking awesome confidence boost for Vettel. There's even rumours out there saying that that's why Ferrari did this, to give him that boost. But you know what? If they did,
I don't think...
Even if you want to give that theory some credit, let's just say for argument's sake, yeah, that's what they did. You know what? If I was the team boss, I would have done that too, because you need him to be strong. You need Vettel to be strong. There's no championship you're fighting for here. Lewis has got that wrapped up.
Yeah.
So why not give Vettel that bit of confidence if you can, just by doing something like this, which I don't think they did.
It was also interesting to see the dynamic then play out with Leclerc, because Leclerc was
sulking.
Yeah.
Basically, I couldn't put it any other way. He annoyed me.
Well, yeah, he was like, I want to talk about this. I don't know about the undercut, but surely, I know at the time, has he said anything else since? Because I haven't been able to watch a lot of media after. Has he changed his view on it after a debrief even? Yeah,
afterwards he's come out and he said he understands that, nothing's bigger than the team, and Ferrari secured a 1-2, and that's all that's important. And they didn't even expect to come away with a win from Singapore, let alone
a 1-2.
A 1-2. Yeah. So he's been coached afterwards, after the race calmed down, and
it's still that doesn't sound. That sounds more of a what do you call it? A fixed speech.
That's what I'm saying. He's been coached.
What's the word? Do you know the word for it? I'm trying to think. Like when they spin doctor sort of response. I can't think of the word. Doesn't matter. But yeah, that doesn't feel like a genuine emotional response from him. It seems more of a cut and copy sort of. This is what we need you to say. type thing.
Look, I just feel like he's believing his own hype, or that's what it sounded like, or that's what it came across like, I should say. I'm not going to put it on him and say, yes, but I'm just saying, as a fan, as a unbiased fan, let's say, watching it, because I don't care either or, but he just came across like he's believing his own hype after these last two races, that it's kind of gone to his head, and now here we are, and he's secured the pole position for this race, and all of a sudden he's feeling entitled. Like, that's what it came across like. You know, what are we going to do about this undercut? I just don't think it's right. And then he said, we'll talk after the race. And then the next safety car, I just don't think it's right. I mean, I understand, don't worry, I've got my head down. I want a 1-2 for Ferrari as well, but not in this order. We'll talk after the race. Next safety car, we'll talk after the race. He just kept going on about it. Like, just shut up and drive, mate.
Oh, actually, about the restarts, what's his name? Who does the Skypad? I've got a mind blank today.
Anthony Davidson.
Yeah, Anthony Davidson. Because he kept saying on the restarts, they kept telling the Ferrari guys K1, a restart mode. And then he said at one point they gave someone a K1 Plus, which must be...
That was for Leclerc.
I was watching Leclerc on each restart. I heard K2 every time. I never heard this K1 Plus. I might have missed that one that happened, but I was never hearing K1 out of Leclerc's ears. I was always hearing K2. So I don't know if what they were listening to, unless... I'm probably going to be proven wrong on this, but I can almost felt like it was K2 all the time. So he wasn't even getting all the power mode out of that.
I wasn't on F1 TV this week. I was just watching off the TV, off the Sky guys, and I heard that they said that they gave Leclerc everything, which was kind of drove the point home to me as well. Like, he just wanted the place given back to him, but in actual fact, Vettel beat Leclerc after those pit stops when they came through to the back markers.
Mm-hmm.
Mate, the way Vettel went through those back markers, and he was on it. Like, he wasn't taking no prisoners. He wanted to get through them as quick as possible.
Oh, that made a big difference.
It was about 5-second gap.
Yeah.
It might have been 5.6 seconds at one stage ahead of Leclerc. He worked hard for that, and it took Leclerc, I remember specifically, almost 3 laps to get past Stroll, whereas Vettel did it in 1 lap. So that was a big telling factor there, where Leclerc was unable to be as decisive through the traffic around Singapore. I mean, that's understandable as well, having said that. I mean, it's just experience, right? I mean, he's a bloke,
obviously
4-time world champion. He's got 10 years on him. But what I'm saying is, for me, that was the period where he really beat Leclerc, and that was the period where, no, I'm not going to give you this spot back, because then it actually played against Vettel, didn't it? 3 safety cars after that. So all the hard work was undone. 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, yeah, I know Leclerc's had some success lately, but he's still number 2. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't matter if Vettel's been having a shit year. He's still the second driver in that team. And, like, he just needs to bring it down a bit and just, like, you'll get your moment. Like,
his time is definitely coming, right?
Yeah,
it's definitely coming, but just calm your farm, son.
Yeah, like, because if you kept acting like that as this number 2 driver, you're not going to last long in the big team, I don't think, because then you jeopardise, like you said, the 1-2 at the end of the day, and that's what the team really wants to see. They want to see 2 Ferraris come across the line first and second, not first and third or whatever it could have been.
Exactly right. I mean,
and Bottas plays that role well.
We'll get to him in a minute, but to just finish the Ferrari talk off, here we were saying, as I said, they were expected to win the previous 2 races. They weren't even expected to make a podium here at Singapore. If we're all honest, he was expected to finish maybe 4th best, 4th, 5th. That's what the Ferrari were hoping for, I'm sure, coming into the race.
Well, that's what I picked. That's what I predicted.
Now, with these upgrades that they've brought, they're obviously working. They've got a whole new nose cone area, if you notice. Did you see it? They have 2 nostrils now, and they've got that...
yeah, I did see that.
I don't know. if you notice it on the Mercedes, they've had it. It's like a scoop underneath the nose, like a extra plane where the air can push down on it.
Yeah,
like a cape.
Yeah.
Like a
reverse
and
wing.
Now the Ferraris have got that. That's right.
Yeah.
The Ferraris have got that now. They've brought a whole new floor, and they've also brought an updated diffuser, and obviously it's done the trick.
Yeah, well, it's working for them. So
My question to you now is,
yeah,
which track can they not win at now until the end of the season?
I think they'll do well in Russia. That's the next.
They'll do well everywhere.
That's the next one. I'm trying to think, where else have we got to go?
Then we're going to Japan. Then we got to go to America and Mexico and Brazil and Abu Dhabi. So
they all seem to suit Ferrari, don't they?
Now they do.
Yeah.
Last week they didn't.
So we've got the Japanese Grand Prix, the Mexican Grand Prix, the United States Grand Prix. That'd must suit Ferrari. Interlagos, and then Abu Dhabi. Oh, man. If any, I'm going to have to say maybe Abu Dhabi. Sorry, not Abu Dhabi. Interlagos. Maybe Interlagos.
It's a very interesting dynamic we have
but
here.
They've got that long straight up to the start finish, and then it's a bit of a technical bit before then, but you got that another straight up before, and it's like a big sweeping. Yeah, that's maybe Interlagos.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
Like if we're having this conversation, if I asked you this question last week, it's like, ooh, maybe two of the next tracks are going to suit them and the rest aren't.
Well,
but now,
before I would have said they probably do okay in Russia. They'll probably do okay at Japan, and then they've probably got a shot at the US Grand Prix, and the rest will probably not be in the bag. But yeah, they're upgrades of. I can't believe how many races we don't have left. This has gone so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're in for a 1-2 potential for the rest of the season.
It's a real shame, isn't it? How like Canada got taken away from Vettel. Leclerc had that misfortune in Bahrain.
Yep.
Leclerc crashed in Abu Dhabi. Then Vettel stuffed himself up in Monza. And then a few other races where Vettel's been stuffing up constantly.
Yeah.
So it's like what could have been, isn't it? It's just now this is the package they should have had at the start.
Yeah, it could have been a really tight finish, but we're not going to get that now. But it should be an interesting end at least.
Oh, definitely. I mean, are they a shot at the Constructors' Championship if they can dominate from here to the end? I think they might even be a bit too far even for that.
No, I don't think at this point.
Unless they legitimately finish 1-2 at every race.
And Mercedes have a few DNFs here and there, which they rarely have.
But it's interesting. This is the first time they are definitely well and truly on the back foot.
Yeah, definitely.
It's almost like, remember when Braun won the championship?
Not really.
Okay. Well, they started off the first half of the season way million of miles ahead of everyone. But towards the end of the season, they kind of did it away, but they'd done enough.
What year was that, by the way?
Button. Oh. No. 2000 and... No, the 2000s were all of... 2005? 2006?
Oh, I should have remembered that.
I should too, but...
No, I was probably too more interested in girls.
But yeah, that's what happened. They withered away towards the end of the season with everyone else catching up, and now it's just a little bit too late for Ferrari, I think.
I know the connection you're trying to make here, though, because I hear this Braun GP connection all the time. You know, it's happened all too late. Like they're in for a real shot, but I know what you mean. Constructors Championships 2009, Drivers Championships 2009.
9, was it? 9.
You know why? I don't remember this. Because 2009 was the year I joined the Navy, and for that whole year, I had no TV. hardly any internet access, nothing. Like, I didn't even know Michael Jackson died the day he died, so because he died in 2000.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, I remember being told it, but we found out, like, 2 weeks late. So, because at that time I was in recruit school, and you get nothing. No phone, no computer, no TV. You're out for 3 months. There's almost zero connection to the outside world, so...
2009, geez, that's 10 years ago. It felt like it was longer than that.
I know, right? But, yeah, that'd be why I don't remember it, because I didn't really get to see F1 at all that year. So
that's Ferrari. They are definitely back, guys, and it's going to be very interesting where we go from here. And thankfully, we don't have too long to wait because we have got Russia this week. So it's going to be interesting. There'll be no tyre deg there because it's a smooth as circuit. It's a track that Bottas usually goes good on, the Finns like driving on ice. So
hell yeah.
So let's get on to light number 3, which was we touched on it a little bit, I think, about the conservation mode at the start of the race.
Yeah.
To make these tyres last so they could only do a 1-stop instead of a 2.
But there was even talk of the 2-stopper possibly being faster, but we didn't really get to see that play out.
What was Leclerc's pole time? Was it a 134 or something, or 137?
Oh, I don't have it in front of me, but I'll find it if you want to go on with your point.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I think he was like well over 10, 12 seconds slower than his qualifying time in the race. He was lapping in the 49s in that first stint. So that's why I was just curious what his qualifying time was, because I'm sure it definitely wasn't in the 40s. It was in the 30s.
It was not even at 34. 136, 217.
136, and he was doing 49s in that first stint for 20 laps. So that just goes to show how slow they were going. I mean, we had Russell, the fastest man on the track, from about lap 8 to about lap 15 or 16.
Yeah, it was really weird. I was seeing like all these low teams getting bloody fastest laps on the board, and you're like, what?
Hulkenberg, fastest lap, It's just
I was like, what?
Crazy.
What is
just so slow?
Well, I wasn't really watching. Were you watching the timing sheet?
Yeah, all the time.
So it was obvious to you at the time.
Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't. I'd used too many devices, so I didn't have a spare laptop free for timing. But yeah, it wasn't immediately noticeable until they said something about it, and then I was like, "Hang on, yeah, they're going quite slow." And
I was watching like Dan's times because he started at the back, right? So I wanted to see how he was progressing. He made up a few good positions in those first few laps, and then he was lapping like a second or 2 seconds faster than the leaders, and I'm like, man, he's on mediums, they're on softs, and then the next thing pops up. I think it was Kvyat at one stage even had fastest lap. Hulkenberg was down there at the fastest lap, and then Crofty even pointed it out. I mean, Russell was the fastest man on the track for like the last 7 or 8 laps in that first stint. So it's just crazy. A Williams.
It was really weird. Really weird.
I didn't necessarily mind it, but I did hear a lot of people saying, well, that's not racing. But it kind of was, because it was a strategic race at that point. It was... I hate these tyres, and I hate that they have to do that and they aren't able to push the shit out of them.
Right.
But we've got what we've got. There's nothing you can do about it. So there was a massive strategic play going on. Ferrari didn't want gaps to open up in the field for likes of Max Verstappen and likes of Hamilton that they could pit nicely and slot back into and then do some clear laps. So that's why they were going extra slow, to keep the whole field compacted, to stop the pit windows opening up. So that's what the strategy was. But for the people who were saying, well, that's not racing, I kind of get that point as well. Like, it was for 20 laps, they were just going, like I said, 15 seconds per lap slower than they could.
But it kind of is racing at the same time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's not fun, but it is racing.
It is racing,
yeah.
And I thought it was tense.
Oh, so did I. Like, at the end, it was... Like, especially even in qualifying, like, it was like, can Vettel get his tyres to work in the last sector where he's... that's where he needs to get it done. Because he did it in the first run, obviously not in the second. But yeah, during the race, it really made for a tense strategic element to that one, which really made that race what it was. And
Correct. And
for some people, that's not enough. But
I didn't have an issue with it. But if the goal here is to get the cars to drive at maximum 100%
all the
ability
time.
and speed at every lap, then the only way you're going to do that is if you enforce 2 pit stops. If there was a two pit stop mandatory on the race that we just had,
Yeah.
they would have had to have been going hell for leather.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. But do you want to make them all do 2 stops?
No,
No.
I don't. I'm just saying that if the conversation was about how do we change this and how do we stop that, that's the only way I could see that.
Is like, how many races have we had this issue with this year so far?
Man,
I don't remember talking about it.
I didn't even have an issue with it. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, no.
There's a lot
But
of
for
other
those who
people,
did
yeah.
have an issue, just trying to put it into perspective, because we tend to jump on things so quickly in F1.
Exactly.
Well,
this is like the endurance race. This is the Bathurst of Formula One because it times out. It's the last. I think they said out of the last 11 races,
5 of them,
times
yeah,
have timed out. And this one, when they were doing the 61 lap, when they crossed the line for this last lap, there was 2 minutes left on the clock. So
it's just what happens.
that's what I'm saying. This is the enduro of F1.
It's just, yeah, it's just part of racing. And with them being fueled heavy from the start, there's always going to be an element of conservation at some point. It might not be as obvious as Singapore, but they're still going to be driving slower early on to save something.
Look, Singapore is the Monaco of Southeast Asia or Asia Pacific. Like, Monaco is Monaco, and Singapore is like the new Monaco of Asia Pacific.
Yeah,
The night
Singapore,
races, the glamour, the glitz. Yeah,
Singapore it does a pretty good job too of putting on a good race.
and how good did the cars look under those?
They
lights?
do look good. I do like a shiny car, and the Ferraris looks especially good in that matte paint.
I really noticed that a lot this weekend. Like, I was thinking back to Bahrain, and I couldn't remember them looking as good there, or I didn't remember noticing it as much. I
But
was
you've
just wondering.
had so many races now in the daytime that sort of probably
Maybe that's what it was.
stood out a lot more.
So then that was our third light on and third light out, and now we're up to our fourth light, which I just wanted to go through some of the incidents. We had a few incidents in this race.
Certainly did.
Starting at turn 1 with Russell being squeezed by Dan on the inside and Kubica on the outside. His teammate actually took his wing off.
Yeah, it was so... just one of those squeeze... It was, like you said, it wasn't talked about much after the replay.
It wasn't at all. I just saw that one replay of the start. Of the
I think that's the
incident where Russell
only
lost his wing.
thing I've ever seen of it.
Yeah, because then the focus became on Russell and Grosjean, which is the next incident which took Russell out. And that was a weird one, wasn't it? It was like...
Grosjean just did not want to give up the fight at all. And Russell, well, he made his thoughts known because he's like, shouldn't be surprised type thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we give Grosjean a lot of shit, but do you think he was in the wrong with that one, or do you think he got a bit squeezed by Russell?
I think Grosjean got a little bit... I feel like he just pushed it too far. Because he clearly wasn't going to get the overtake. He should have just put the brakes on a bit or something, because it can't be easy to fit 2 cars around that corner anyway. Let alone, I don't know what lap we're on, but I think it was just after a restart anyway, so the tyres might not have been fully there. All these things that come into play. I just think Grosjean probably should have just backed off, because he would have had a chance to have another go at him next couple of corners anyway. That's how I feel anyway.
Again, just being devil's advocate, I can just counter that by saying I think Russell should have just backed off, because what's he doing trying to fight with the faster car anyway? Like, just let him go.
Yeah.
Get on with your race.
I get that, but you're like, they should be fighting.
100%.
Because Giovinazzi made it difficult for like the likes of Verstappen and Hamilton and such to get up there when they wanted to. Like, and I was really happy to see that. I don't know if he was playing ball for Ferrari, but he still. It was good to see like him having making life hard for those top guys. So I like to see an overtake happen, but Grosjean's I think pushed it.
I think Grosjean was actually having a pretty good race himself, though. If you noticed, he was putting on some moves.
Yeah, he
was putting on some moves this weekend. Like he was a bit racy.
Yeah, he just missed out on scoring a point too.
But he was a bit racy. I did notice him a little bit more than I usually do. Other than,
do you reckon the security of having a race car for next year has sort of helped that? Because you remember how it was always up in the air, you know.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It definitely could.
Because everyone's been giving him shit all year. I know we have. Well, I said K-Mag would be the first to go, which did shock a few people. Grosjean has stayed. And yeah, that could have... Grosjean for so long has just been having a shitty race after shitty race after shitty race. And then to get that security of, you know, you'll have an F1 drive next year, that might have just been enough of a morale boost for him to just go, you know what? I'll show them what I can do and show them that they did the right thing.
Apparently, Hulkenberg just asked for too much money.
Right, okay.
The only other rumour I've heard is apparently Hulkenberg is a real diva, and apparently he's really hard to work with. So,
well, he is his own agent as well.
So I think Haas just basically said, yeah, thanks, but no thanks.
So they just said, this is sort of working with Grosjean and Magnussen, we're just going to keep it.
I think that's what it came down to. Better the devil you know than the one you don't, I guess. Yeah,
it's hard to see Hulkenberg as a diva because he seems to be such a likable guy on camera.
Yeah, apparently he's. And yeah, geez, didn't his girlfriend get some attention this weekend on the cameras?
No, I wonder why. She's not bad looking.
And the other interesting thing with the Grosjean-Russell crash and Russell DNFing was that was the very first DNF for Williams all year.
When they put up that point, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, surely you've had a DNF somewhere else, but all right. Okay. So that means their reliability is on point.
They were the only team which had finished every single race.
It's probably because they're not pushing the car to its limits because it's so slow.
But yet you'd think that they'd be pushing it harder than everyone else because they're trying to catch up.
Yeah, I know. They obviously can't get that out of the car, but that was a weird statistic.
It was a very interesting stat, wasn't it? Then we had the
Kvyat
torpedo coming down into turn one with Kimi.
He came back from a freaking... That was a Ricciardo-esque dive, that one. Just licking the stamp and sending it.
But I feel like he pulled it off.
So did I.
As much as I love Kimi, I have to say, this one, I say, Kimi just turned into him.
Well, he did, but at the same time, if you're Kimi, you're not really expecting him to take a dive from as far back as he did, but at the same time, he did, and he made the moves. You got to be ready for anything.
Exactly. Like, my point would be there is, if you're leaving the door open, you got to expect not expect someone to have a go. And Kvyat pulled it off, man. He was okay.
DRS.
It didn't look like he was out of control.
No, he had the DRS, and his engineer said to go, and he took it. And
I was worried for Kvyat because I could just already hear all the see all the torpedo memes, but thankfully there hasn't been many that I've seen.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen many either.
So that one I put down to Kimi.
To Kimi, yeah. Well, it was a good move from Kvyat at the end of the day.
He's had a couple of scrappy races, the old Kimi. He's just,
Yeah.
He's in a little bit of a slump right now after Monza and Singapore.
Ah, well.
He needs to pull out something out of the bag at Russia because even Gio's got it over him now.
Just. Because he almost lost the point he gained from getting that 10-second penalty. Did you hear about that?
Oh, yeah.
So it would have been another race he lost a point at the end of the race for doing something stupid.
So, just going back to, Gio is part of the next thing with Dan and Gio. They had the accident there.
Mm-hmm.
But he got that penalty for driving too close to the
stewards. Too close to the stewards.
Is there a mandated rule, is there? Like when you're on the water, you're supposed to be 60 metres away from a unpowered vessel and so forth like that. Is there a rule here?
Well, the word was they were told to stick to the right or the left, whatever side they were told to stick to when they were working on the car, and apparently Gio was too close, so he didn't stick as far. He had room to keep moving over to the left or right. I guess that's the argument. He just wasn't over far enough.
Yeah.
But, I don't really... Again, I haven't read the book. I don't know if it says you have to give 50 metres for wake, like he said, it on the water or whatever it is. But he was too close. He was too close.
I don't know. Yeah, I'll just leave that one there. But
so you're not...
What about...
So you think it's a bit harsh? He didn't lose a spot, but do you think it was a bit harsh?
Yeah, I think it's a bit harsh that he lost a spot because of it.
Oh, he didn't. He didn't.
Oh, I thought he lost a spot.
No. He was 18 or so seconds ahead, so he still got his point.
I see. So he actually finished in 10th. I thought he finished 9th and went back to 10th.
No, he finished 10th.
Okay. All right. So, but that 10 seconds could have cost him. I just feel like...
I hope it could have.
So then what about with the Dan and Gio? That was another lick it and send it.
Oh, I think that was just unlucky. Because
he just oversteered at the wrong moment.
The way Daniel's car sort of got tucked in underneath Gio's car, and he's just had more traction, accelerated out. You can't. I don't think you could recreate that if you tried. It was such a freak thing.
And then he got a puncture. Dan did from that contact, and that just ruined his race.
Yeah, it was he was having such a good comeback after the lap one incident, man.
He pulled off so many moves.
Heaps. Yeah.
And then this has got to do my head in, bro. Then I'm jumping on Facebook, and then people are saying...
You're about to say it.
Oh,
yeah,
he's lost it. Yeah. He's lost it. He can't overtake cars. Like, what the hell are these people watching?
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. I don't know. I'm clueless. I read those because we're in the same group, so we're going to read the same stuff. And I was just like, what? Yes, he had a crash, but did you see...
How do you even respond to people like that?
I don't know. Did you just watch the highlights? Is that all you saw? Yeah.
Like, when you come back from this race, shouldn't you be saying... Oh, it looks like Dan's starting to get confident in that Renault. He really pulled off a few good moves.
He pulled off
he's getting confident on that brake pedal like he was in the Red Bull.
Yeah,
but no, it comes out and says, "Oh, he's lost the plot. He can't overtake like he used to in the Red Bull." And I'm like, "Okay, then."
What? This is the Formula One fanboy mentality. Something wrong happens. It's the end of the world. Let's jump on it. Let's make a story out of it. It is.
Like, I don't know. Well, as a Dan fan, I was excited for him. He's really finding himself, and it looks like, touch wood, that Renault is actually starting to have something.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think the Renault's on the rise, but Daniel losing his touch undertaking, you've got to be absolutely kidding yourself.
Oh, jeez. We jump on Seb for spinning, and now Dan makes one big
error. It's not
even that big an error.
It's not that Seb spun once. It's Seb spinning all the time. So there's a history of it happening. Like, it's happened once.
That's what I'm trying to say.
It's happened once, guys. Calm down.
I'm glad it pissed you off as much as it did me.
Yeah, as soon as you got pissed off, I was like, he's going to mention the stupid, he's lost his overtaking prowess bloody comments that were being put out there. That was idiotic. Anyway, fourth light done. Fifth light. The Bottas radio call where James told him to do 148. So Hamilton could stay in front. It is pretty clear right now who's the number two.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, I mean, when they signed that contract, was Valtteri told, or is it in writing that you will be here to help Lewis?
Well, I think there must have been a point, like, if Hamilton's winning, you're the clear two. Like,
but
I'm sure if Bottas was winning the championship, it might have been reversed, but he's not.
So a radio call like that to me says more in the sense of basically, yes, you're in a Mercedes, but you will never win a championship because you are not good enough. You are a number two driver. That's it. Because it was very official the way James came on the radio. Valtteri, it's James. We need you to do 48 eighths. because you pitted first. And then
Yeah.
Bottas even questioned it. He said,
Is
was it his choice to go long?
Yeah.
As in Lewis? And then James had to explain himself and say, we're driving for the team here. We need to conserve the cars and blah, blah, blah.
The MGUK and the power
all
unit.
bullshit.
Yeah.
In other words, we don't want you to overtake Hamilton out of the pits. So then, as told, Bottas went straight from 46s. I watched his times. He did a 48.4. He did a 48.6. And then Lewis just came out in front of him in the pits. So.
Yeah, and he didn't even challenge it.
No.
He just,
As
like it was close, and he just let it happen.
So he would have easily done what Vettel did at Ferrari, and he would have easily been ahead of Hamilton because Hamilton went so long.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like thinking, guys, you've screwed Hamilton here, but it doesn't matter. Team orders exist.
And people talk about Ferrari and the team orders there, and again, same thing at Mercedes. I mean, there's not really... If anything, actually, Bottas is the closest contender to Hamilton. So if they want to keep the championship at all alive, let Bottas beat Hamilton so he catches up 2 or 3 more points to him,
Yeah.
But
It was clearly another... That wasn't a more team thing, because they still would have been finished... would they come? Fourth and fifth? But
yes.
Because it would have been just the other way around. But as it comes with I know Hamilton's a fair way ahead in the drivers, but you never know what could happen in the next races. Hamilton might DNF them all, so got to give Hamilton the more points at the end of the day. That's sort of what they're there to do.
That's what they did.
So yeah, I mean, I don't like seeing it. It sucks. And you said something about, will Bottas ever win a championship at Mercedes? Probably not with Hamilton there. It seems to be the way.
Definitely not after this weekend and that radio call, because that was clear as mud.
Oh.
No, sorry. Clear as day, sorry.
Yeah, no, that was clear as day.
Yes, that was clear as day.
Anyway, that's the 5 lights on, 5 lights out segment done.
Done. Dusted.
And now we can go on to the checkered flag, where we can go over some of the brief issues or incidences we didn't quite go over in detail.
Just a couple of things that caught our attention. The first thing I wanted to mention was we all know Dan got a new helmet for this year, with his graffiti look helmet. I don't know how you describe it.
It's like an 80s style helmet.
With a pastel colours. I remember in our pre-season show I actually said, I don't know if I really like it, and I just never really warmed to it. And yeah, it's okay, but I haven't really loved it. But then this weekend he came out and it's still the same helmet, but it's glittered up. They got glitter all over it because just under those lights it sparkles. And I almost feel like, well, now that's finished. Like, it actually looked good this weekend, I thought.
Maybe he'll keep it.
Caught my eye. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting that now all they did is put glitter on it and it caught my eye.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the simple things sometimes are the best.
I like the bling bling.
I must say I didn't notice it, but when you mentioned it, I was like, hang on, yeah, it did have a sparkle to it, now that you talk about it.
And then continuing on with the Dan Love, him and Max were on the Skypad with Ant going over their qualifying laps and just, I think you said you didn't see it.
No, unfortunately, I heard a lot of talk about it, but I haven't seen it, so I can't really comment.
Well, they obviously spent a bit of time together at Red Bull, and they had a lot of those little promo videos that they would do, but this is the first time I've seen them in separate teams. But to me, it really looked like big brother, little brother. The way they were just interacting with each other, and it looked like there's actually a bit of chemistry there between the two of them. Like, they're actually friends.
Well, they seemed friendly at the Red Bull team anyway, so
it was a nice piece. Like, the way it was just real relaxed, and they were just having a bit of fun with each other.
It's good to see that type of thing, though.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, maybe I'll find the clip out there somewhere. I have to have a look.
Oh, 100% you'll find it. So then the other question I had with Dan is, he qualified 8th, and then Hulk qualified 9th, which meant that Daniel has out-qualified Hulk for the season. Done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But now he got DQ'd, so does that mean he hasn't out-qualified Hulk? Does he have to do it again next week? I was just...
Oh,
that's
a
little question
I mean, on the
thought of.
books, probably yes, but technically no.
That's
That's going to be something Crofty's not going to shut up about when he goes over statistics next
Oh,
next
you
week.
reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I can say.
He'll be like, "Oh, Shandok, what do you reckon? Davidson, what do you reckon?" He'll be like, he'll ask everyone. He'll be going on Twitter, and it'll be. But whatever Crofty says goes. So we'll see what happens. But I like to go off whatever Ted says.
You brought them up, man, and this weekend I just noticed their biasness so much. Just through the whole weekend, from qualifying and through the race, just so ham-fosy. Obviously, because he's not doing so well, so they're so focused on it.
Yeah.
And I get that they're British, and it is a Sky, an English commentary team, but don't you think they should try to be a little bit less biased?
Well, you sometimes think with everything, like, because they're so global, because they go off to the F1 TV crowd. They probably even go off to all the English-speaking countries as well. You kind of think they've got a responsibility to do that, but they're not doing that. But I did notice their bias a little bit, but not as much as it pissed you off.
Oh, yeah, just now and then it just really ramps up. Or that's what it seems like to me anyway. Maybe I just notice it sometimes, and once something annoys me, then it's kind of like, you know, when you've got a sore somewhere, you always tend to hit that same spot on your arm or your finger. It's like, once I notice it, then it just like stands out to me like dog's balls for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, well, that's usually what happens. Once you notice something, you're like, how did I miss this all those other times? You can probably go back and watch old races and find bias you haven't noticed until now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But, I mean, it does exist, but again, I kind of expect it to a certain degree.
Hey, that was just a little rant, but you know, I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, I'm grateful for the coverage we have of F1 in this country.
It's better than
through Sky.
It's better than the commentary you get through Channel 10.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just noticed all that bias. Then the last thing I just wanted to point out, or you actually pointed it out over the weekend, was if someone had just said, "Oh, the race is on," and they turn it on and it's lap 29 of the Singapore Grand Prix, and they look at the leaderboard, and Giovinazzi in the Alpha is leading, Gasly in the Toro Rosso is second, and Dan in the Renault is third. You would think, what the hell have I tuned into here? What happened?
Yeah, well, from lap 27 to 30, Giovinazzi was leading the Grand Prix. Gasly was second. Ricciardo was third from 27-28. That's when I took the picture on the Facebook. And yeah, like literally, if you had woken up, you'd have been like, what the hell's going on here? Like,
yeah. You'd have think there must have been a massive pile up at the start.
Oh, shit, like, because the only reason I thought of that is because didn't happen in F1, but back years ago, you remember when all the crap was happening with Kevin Rudd, our once Prime Minister, that got kicked out by Julia Gillard? I was doing night shift work in the Navy, and I had done we're doing a changeover, so I went from day shift to night shift, and on that time off, you try stay up so I had to try stay up all day to then get back to the night. So I slept for like a full day, and then I woke up, turned the TV on, and it said Prime Minister Julia Gillard, and I was like, what the fuck's going on here? Like,
oh, okay.
I was like, I
went wondering where you were going with
yeah,
that.
I was like, I went to bed with it, bloody Kevin Rudd, and now this lady's leading. I just imagined someone waking up, like had fallen asleep after lap, I don't know, say lap 10 or something, and then like got woken up and just saw Giovinazzi leading, and there would have just been it just would have been confusion for a few minutes until you sort of figured it out.
Laugh. Because you know, in modern Formula One, this does not happen. No Ferrari there, no Red Bull there in the top three, no Merc there in the top three, and you're like, what the hell?
It was good to see though, but it didn't last long. It only lasted Giovinazzi like 4 laps.
I think it was with the Sky Boys at the end of the race. Giovinazzi was like, when they said it to him, you know, you were actually leading the race first time in Formula One, and he said, "Yeah, I hope my parents were watching."
Yeah, hopefully they were just watching for those 4 laps.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was interesting. Doesn't happen all the time.
That was a Singapore race done and dusted, guys, and we are off to Sochi, Russia this week. So let's see what surprises that has in store for us.
Yeah.
It is notoriously a good track for Bottas, but last year he was forced to hand the lead to Hamilton, remember, and we'll see what happens this year.
Turn 2. Is that the big swinging one around the flagpoles? Is that 2?
Yes.
You reckon there's going to be a crash through there, or because I know Vettel had that issue before a few years back, or even coming into 3. We had a big one in the FNL1 esports race last time we were there at 3. I think Metaman was part of it. I remember Metaman just flying off through the apex or something.
It's a long sweeping bend, that one. I mean, that's where the Ferrari power is going to come into play, and like I said earlier, I mean, last week we would have said they're going to, or I did say they'll probably struggle in Sector 2 through all the twisty Mickey Mouse bits, but they didn't struggle at Singapore, so I don't see why they're going to struggle there.
No.
I guess the only thing will be is if the tyres just don't work for them for some reason, because it's such a smooth surface. But that's about the only thing that I can see is working against Ferrari at this stage.
And you wouldn't expect an overly hot race as well, would you? Unless global warming has ruined that. I don't know.
Well, Russia's not a notoriously hot country, so...
Yeah, anyway. S3, the Superstar surprise of the sticker. 1 to the Superstar, 3 to the... No, two to the Superstar. Fucking bloody idiot. I've got S1, S2, S3 written down on my thing here, and I'm just reading off those numbers. So, sorry, Superstar gets 2, 1 to the Surpriser, -1 to the Stinker. Who was your Superstar for this one?
For this week, he's copped a lot of minuses in the last few races, but this one, Vettel gets 2 points from me. It was a good weekend for him.
Yeah, it was a good... I struggled between him and Verstappen. I had to go for Verstappen because he split Mercedes, man. He split the Ferraris and Mercedes, and
he kind of almost had a nothing weekend though, didn't he? He
Yeah.
kind of was just in that slot from start to finish.
I just think I think he got everything he could out of the car. I don't think...
100%. He did what he needed to do, but what I'm saying is he really had an uneventful weekend.
If you go off event, if I had to pick who was more eventful between Vettel and Verstappen, it'd be Vettel, but I still think Verstappen deserves those points for me this week.
Just quickly, this was the first weekend we had where Max and Albon were on the same equal level playing field, other than the fact that Albon has never driven there before.
Yeah.
But as far as the car goes, and he probably wasn't as... I think he knew it himself too. He probably could have had a better weekend. He didn't have a shit weekend, but it was just okay, wasn't it?
I mean, he finished behind Bottas. That's, I think, at minimum where you'd expect him to finish at this stage.
True, yeah.
So I think he probably did. He ticked the boxes there and got the job done. Whether or not he could have done better is a different story.
So I'd probably just give him an okay for this weekend for Albon, wouldn't you?
Albon? Yeah, I think he nothing special, but he did the job.
All right. Who was your 1 point, the surprise for the weekend?
Was Giovinazzi. He got the point finally. He almost ruined it at the end, but he didn't crash out like Raikkonen. He's been so close every other race.
Yes.
And I really liked the way he was giving the front guys a hard time when they wanted to come back through again after he was leading. Because he made it difficult, and I was like, that was good. And I don't know if that helped him or not, but anyway, he got a point at the end of the day, and he was my point. He surprised me.
My 1 point was for Norris. He finally had a bit of luck on his side, didn't have bad luck on his side, and he had a pretty good race, and he was best of the rest in the McLaren.
Yeah, definitely. Now, my stinker goes to Magnussen for this week. I know he didn't have the best car, apparently, but to be beaten by Kubica, man, you're not having a good one.
I can't remember him.
Just wasn't
in an incident. Did he break a wing or anything?
That's why I asked early on. I was like, did something happen to Magnussen, or was it just a shit weekend for him?
I think he just had a shit weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, and he seemed to have pace because he put the car in Q2. So
he was
wasn't
good.
All that bad.
Good through quali, but the race wasn't.
I think he just had one of those races where things didn't pan out for him. Safety cars didn't work out.
No.
Just For me, the stinker had to unfortunately go to my man Kimi this weekend.
Right, that's a fair one as well.
Just
You pretty much picked the other ones I would have picked on your three.
okay.
Because you picked Vettel, and then you picked Norris, who was also chucking up, and then you picked Raikkonen, which was the other one. So you did my other picks.
Well, we are kind of on the same page, eh?
We are. Last week we were dead on.
And this week for my rookie, I have given it to your man Gio.
Gio, I gave it to Norris. So there you go.
Okay.
And if you've listened this far, you're obviously a regular, and I want to apologise about skipping off the radio, the intro to the podcast last week, and then the ending. The last episode, it was my fault. I was sick and tired, and I just didn't notice that I did that. So, and we were going to fix it, but you'd already downloaded it anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I'll make sure they're on there this week. So I want to apologise for that. That was my fault.
Apology accepted.
Cool. All right. On we go. Onwards and upwards. Better from here. Podium predictions for Russia. Well, I think I can pick your first two. I don't know if I'm going to pick them in the right order.
Well, I'm going to go Vettel.
Okay. You probably jinxed it now, but anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
So you're going Vettel. I'm going to go Leclerc for first. And I'm guessing you're going Leclerc for second?
No, I was just about to say, man, it's taken him 9 years or 11 years to get a 1-2. Surely they're not going to do it 2 weeks in a row, so I'm going to put Hamilton at second.
All right. No, I'm going to go for the 2 1-2s in a row. I'm going to put so mine's Leclerc, then Vettel. So Vettel second for me.
Then it will be Maxi Boy on third for me to beat Bottas. And you know what? I'm going to throw one out there, mate, and I'm going to put Dan in fifth.
All right. Shit. Well, the Renaults, they might surprise us. They did in Monza.
That's what I said. I'm just going to throw one out there.
2, 3, 4. And might as well give us your fifth position.
That's what I said. I've got Vettel, Ham, Max, Bottas, Dan.
Oh, right. Bottas and then Daniel. Interesting. Yeah, well, I've got Leclerc, Vettel, and then Hamilton for the third. Verstappen for fourth. And I'm going to put Albon in fifth.
Albon, ooh.
Yeah, he's going to match his
one,
best finish this year.
He's going to have a strong one, okay.
Yeah, and that means Bottas comes somewhere sixth and under.
I'm actually, on the back of Singapore now, I'm actually excited for Sochi and Russia and just see how it's all going to pan out.
Yeah,
I'm already pumped.
No, it should be. It's an unknown. And where we used to hear, oh, Ferrari have got the pace, they finally have the pace and we could see a really good race again. So definitely it's all on the table.
I don't know. Either I really am just an F1 tragic, but it's a bit ironic how much I'm enjoying this season and just... I think it's been a great season considering the domination of Hamilton and Mercedes.
Yeah.
Normally you have these domination
it hasn't been too bad, has it?
Boring. Yeah.
Well, it's not like they've been out by 20 seconds, you know. I remember the days when they'd finish ahead of everyone by 20 seconds and it'd be a miracle to see another car in the frame with a Silver Arrows car in it. You know, if it was just...
Yep.
If they were focusing on the Mercedes, there was no other colours unless they were lapping someone.
That's why and now, but also on top of the leaders, I think what's making the season very interesting and exciting as well is all this midfield battling going on. Like, it's just... The midfield battle has been great. The passing, the action.
Yeah. It's been good.
Alright, so let's move on to some sim racing and esports news. There's not too much this week, just a couple of things I wanted to mention was our FNL1 Esports F1 race this week. We will be doing Singapore ourselves.
Yeah, baby. On Friday.
It is a tough race, even for us on the sim, and even tougher because a lot of us have been putting a lot of time in for Bathurst 1000 race coming up on Saturday,
Yeah.
which we haven't done enough practice for Singapore yet.
Is
but,
F2 at Singapore this week too?
No, F2's have got a week off this week.
Oh,
so
do
they've
they?
got a break
All right.
in their season, so they've got...
Enjoy the break.
This week yes, the F2s are back next Thursday for the second half of their 12-round season.
Sweet. Well, I should be back to streaming that one for you as well.
Okay, and yes, you will be streaming on Friday night.
Friday night,
and
yep.
And the big one on Saturday, guys, 11 a.m. Is the Bathurst 1000 on iRacing.
161 glorious laps on Mount Panorama.
We will be streaming that. We will have 4 cars representing FNL1 Esports, but we will bring you the whole race.
Yeah, we'll give you the whole race. If all 4 of our cars crash out, I'll still be finishing off so you can see who does win. But it's
Josh will even be doing a stint in my car with Eddie that we're sharing, the 3 of us, and Josh is going to do a stint in there. So
get 1 hour.
You might even get a little bit of commentary there from him while he's driving if he's got a bit of time.
Yeah.
On the straight down Conrod.
Yeah, I'll try, but I might be a bit more quieter than usual because you need to concentrate in this car.
Definitely. So
It's taken a bit of... You've done a lot of work on the setup, and it definitely settles her down. But if you go in there, if you've got iRacing and is it the VF, Commodore?
yeah, the VF,
Yeah,
the V8. Yeah.
Pull up the V8 VF and stock. Don't tune it. It is just hit the brakes. You'll be sliding into walls and doing all sorts of pirouettes and spins.
That's right. If someone's fresh to sim racing and they jumped into that V8, they'll give it up in 15 minutes. They'll say, "No, I can't do this stuff."
No, you need to sit down and do some laps. And then
The other thing
go on.
that happened, is the F1 Esports Pro Series round 1. Did you watch any of that?
I watched a bit of it. I didn't get to watch it all though. I was just upset that they just have to use spectator mode like we do. Just that really pisses me off.
Well, in reality, yeah, their stream doesn't look much different to our stream.
No, it
does
looks
it?
the
They've got a little
same.
bit more,
It should look different,
professional
but it-
stuff happening, but with the budget they have, so it should be a bit more polished. But not too much different. But
What do you think of the race
they've got
anyway?
the racing was pretty good, but I'm just disappointed in the format. I mean, I don't understand why they stick to this 25% race.
Yeah, that is
So
weird,
short.
man.
It's so short, and they have a mandatory tyre stop in there, so
Just go
it
the
doesn't really
50.
give an opportunity. Yeah, it doesn't give you any opportunity for, in a 12-lap race to have any strategy play here. And this is for $500,000.
Yeah, man, they should be
So,
doing full Grand Prix. None of this.
at the very least 50%.
At least 50, but 25. I do agree. It is just outrageously short.
That's one thing that really stood out to me. I mean, the big money that's on offer.
You don't get
They've
enough.
got some new players.
You don't. But what that promotes as well in the 12 laps is just to go balls to the wall for 12 laps. You don't get the, properly checking your fuel conservation, MGUK management. You don't get all of that aspect of F1, which should be
That's what I said,
simulated
yeah.
in these big races.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
There's just no time for strategy play. It's basically just a sprint
It's
race.
who's the fastest, who's good for 12 laps. And a lot of people can be quick for 12 laps, but who can be quick for 60? That's a completely different skill set.
The biggest shock there from the esports series was Brendan Lee, who has been unstoppable the last 2 seasons they've had it. Always on pole, just winning the races. If he's not winning, he's coming second. But in the first 3 races, because each round they have 3 races, in the first 3 races, he was nowhere. I think the highest he qualified was 8th, and the highest he finished, I think, was 6th or 7th out of the 3 races.
Yep.
And that's just, I don't know what's going on there. I think just this year's game, the physics or something is just not suiting his style yet. He hasn't figured it out.
Yeah, that's a shame that it... it happens in gaming, though. Like, they can do an update, it can break. It happens in other esports as well. They do an update to the game, and it completely breaks the game for the pro players, and they have to then relearn a new skill set once again. And it can be something so minor, like you said, just how the physics work, and it can really put someone off. So, yeah, he has been a big surprise, not dominating as usual, but that is part of the e-sports, the electronic side of things. Things will change.
Well, I guess in real life it happens like that too. Look how we've been saying this year's car hasn't been suiting Vettel.
No, exactly.
Like he just hasn't been able to drive it.
Yeah, so you just got to learn to adapt. Another, that Dirt 2 10 grand fastest rally thing, whatever they call it, World Series, went underway. The first round finished last week. I actually had a go at that. I practiced a fair bit. Obviously, I didn't win, but I was only 20 seconds off the fastest time, and God, that guy was quick. He must have been like hardly... Yeah, it was tough. So I'm not going to win the 10 grand this week, but the qualifiers are still open. I think the second qualifier opens now, and you can either do rally or a rally cross event.
Are they giving 10 grand every week?
No, not every week. There's a whole format, like you'll qualify and then they'll go to semis and then, off to final. I don't know how they're going to do it. It's interesting to see because it's a rally game, so it's more of a time attack event, but that's rally. That's how rally's played out. So, yeah, it's good to see that... WRC's been doing events for years now, but now that Dirt Rally 2 sort of gotten into it as well, it's sort of expanding there. So I bit the bullet and got Dirt 2 and had a bit of fun, and I'll let you know what I think in the next few weeks. I'm going to put out a quick review. But, yeah, if you're interested, you've got the second qualifier event this week. That's about all the stuff I know. We've got the big one is obviously our Bathurst one this weekend, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, guys. So tune in all day Saturday, pretty much.
September 28th.
If you know anyone who loves V8s? Yes, September 28th.
Remember the date.
September 28th, Australian Eastern Standard Time. I believe it's at 11 a.m. I think 10:30 maybe. It's practice and then qualifying, and leads into the race.
Right.
So 161 laps. If you know anyone around, let them know.
We'll be streaming all day, and we'll even have heaps of the drivers on helping me out because it's going to be a long slug.
Yep,
but
we'll be there.
Anyway, yeah, September.
It's going to be a very interesting day. I'm looking forward to it.
September 28th. Don't forget. All right, Fantasy League to finish off tonight. I did a shitty week. 59 for me. You had a hell of a comeback with 187, dude.
Oh, yeah.
That's, so you now are 10th.
From 12th.
From 12th, and I dropped from 7th to 9th, so we're only separated now by about 16 points.
So I can actually get you.
Yeah.
You were streaking away there, so very good.
And with our predictions last week, I don't think we got a point at all.
No, we didn't. Did we not mention that before?
No, like you picked Hamilton to win, I picked Verstappen, and that just did not happen.
Yep, and then we had both Mercedes in the top three, and which didn't happen. We had you had both the Ferraris for fourth and fifth.
Yeah,
I had Vettel in fourth. I didn't even have Leclerc in my top five. So that's how good we thought Ferrari was going to go around there.
Yep. So yeah, don't know how we're going to go with the Russian ones, but hopefully a little bit better. Anyway. That about wraps up everything we've got to talk about tonight. So
that does wrap us up, and we'll see you next week.
Wow,
guys.
I didn't think we'd do it. We almost hit a 1 hour and a half again. I thought we were going to cut really short there, but I don't know how we do it every week on like clockwork.
It's our slot, that's right.
Yeah, 1 hour and a
half.
All
right, guys.
Yeah, well, I'll be saying goodbye. My name's Josh from Demo One Garage and Race Hard on the Edge. And don't forget, like the Lights at F1 potty on
Facebook page. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, guys, push it to the limit. Keep it on track, and we'll see you next week. And don't forget to tune in to Bathurst on Saturday.
Can't wait.
28th of September.
Good night.
See you later.